this point, it's clear. America's war with Iran is one of its worst planned foreign policy actions in years.
General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, warned President Trump that Iran could close the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump acknowledged the risk, but told his team that Tehran would likely capitulate before closing the strait.
So they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. And the other one, they fought back.
The only thing prohibiting transit in the straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that.
What's the worst case scenario that you have planned for in Iran?
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. I guess the worst case would be we do this and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen.
Also, this is a war with hardly any gain or advantage. Yes, Iran's military power is degraded, but the enriched uranium is still out of reach, and the regime is very much still in place. In fact, it's not even clear that there's an advantage in this for Donald Trump personally.
As President Trump escalates the war with Iran today, backlash from some of his strongest supporters.
I'm just going to be brutally frank. If it's going to be a hard slog, that was not pitched in the 2024 campaign. It just wasn't.
I was promised that this wouldn't turn into a larger regional conflict. It's hard to believe it. It's hard to believe that at this point.
It's difficult to put into words how stupid Trump is for getting us involved in Iran.
Reuters Ipsos poll finds public approval of the war at 27%, lower than the Vietnam conflict in its last 2 years.
Overnight, prices rising another 5 cents. The nationwide average now $3.90 a gallon.
According to Axios, private polling has top Republicans not only worried about losing the House, but they're increasingly worried they could lose control of the Senate as well.
So, given all this, why is it happening? Why launch a war without a clear objective or plan, and that won't even help you politically at home? Well, I think I have an answer, and it lies with a series of essays by a French thinker titled "The Gulf War Did Not Take Place." This book, with its confusing title, was about the 1991 action against Saddam Hussein and caused a lot of controversy at the time, but I believe it gives an insight into how Donald Trump views war. One that not only explains this conflict, but helps predict what he might do next, and that also reveals the flaw at the heart of Trump's thinking. I've got a new sponsor today, and it's something I can genuinely recommend. It's called the Henson Razor, and I've been using it for 3 months now, and I can genuinely say it's part of my life. The way it works is that instead of constantly using crappy replacement plastic cartridges, you get this high quality, well-designed safety razor, replacing just the blades that go inside. And what I realise now is that this is a much smarter approach to shaving, because you actually get a much higher quality razor. It's made from aluminium in Henson's aerospace machine shop. There apparently has also made parts for a Mars rover and the International Space Station, and the blade extends only 0.0013 inches past the shave plane. As a result of this, I'm not getting razor burn or irritation, and in fact when Henson did a test with a medical imaging company that measured skin irritation, they found it had much better results. Also, I'm saving lots of money as well. So yeah, I recommend it. I genuinely think this is the last razor I'm going to need in my life. So thank you to Henson Razor for supporting this channel, and if you're interested, check out the link and code in the description.
Word that Iraq has invaded neighboring state of Kuwait, with fighting reported along the border. The residents say that they were awakened by machine gun fire and heavy artillery.
Saying the Gulf War didn't take place obviously seems mad. It was, after all, a real war, with bombs, violence, death, and so on. So what did he mean? Well, at this point I should admit, Jean Baudrillard, like many such thinkers, is stimulating and interesting, but also elusive. There are essentially, on my reading of his essays, 3 things he's saying. First, Baudrillard was saying that the Gulf War was such a one-sided conflict that to use the label war with its sense of uncertainty and drama was kind of a disgusting fiction. Second, Baudrillard was reacting to the way the Gulf War was the first live TV war, CNN broadcasting 24 hours a day, full of videos of laser-guided bombs hitting their targets. For Baudrillard, one of the reasons the war did not exist was that it was grotesquely sanitized and clean, one where the public saw the missile hits, but not the violence or death that followed. Third, and this is the strangest part, he was arguing these images didn't just represent or misrepresent the war, they were the war. In other words, the videos, TV, all these images that represented reality had come to almost replace that reality. As Ian Leslie, who wrote a great essay on all this, puts it, Everyone, politicians and generals included, was lost inside the simulation. The spectacle had swallowed the real. Baudrillard's word for this state was hyperreality, a state where the representation of something becomes more real and more important than the thing itself, almost to the point where there's no difference. Now, I think Baudrillard was wrong about the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait and threatened the world's oil supply, and George Bush Sr.'s action had real-world consequences, even for the Americans watching it on TV. But what if you had a president who wasn't like George Bush? What if you had a president who didn't just see how the media can shape the experience of war, but who saw the war on TV as the reality?
You would have seen what happened. I mean, I watched it literally like I was watching a television show. The speed, the violence, they say that. The speed, the violence, they use that term. It was an amazing thing.
When I made my video on the Venezuela attack, I examined various theories about Trump's motivation. I asked whether it was a reverse domino strategy to topple the regime in Cuba, or part of a Don Roe doctrine where the US would focus on the Western Hemisphere, or maybe an imperial project to get the country's oil as Trump claimed. But all the theories fell short. Even Trump's rationale about getting the oil was scuppered by oil execs saying the project wasn't viable. But when you think of the conflict as a TV show, shaped by a desire to maintain and keep attention, then it makes a lot more sense. You notice how important it was for Trump to post that iconic photo of Maduro. You notice the weird video set to a Vietnam-era protest song. Or the way White House photos of the operation showed that the largest screen visible in the room was open to X, seemingly so the administration could monitor how the campaign was going on social media. And when you consider that the operation started with promises of huge change.
So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
But ended with the same regime in place and the whole incident now basically memory hold. It really does feel like you could say the Venezuela war did not take place.
Finishing this fight.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the Iran conflict, it feels like once again Trump is in hyperreality, where the war exists mainly as videos and images. This explains the endless flow of videos mixing up clips of the conflict with popular culture.
Time to find out. Maximum effort.
It explains the administration's obsession with media coverage.
Trump administration is threatening to go after U.S. TV networks for their coverage of the war with Iran.
FCC Chair Brendan Carr threatened to revoke their licenses over the coverage, accusing the media of running what he called hoaxes and news distortions related to the war.
For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate?
And it explains the grotesquely unserious way in which Trump seems to think about this war, repeatedly calling it an excursion, answering a question about whether Americans should worry about Iranian attacks at home with the words, I guess, or talking about how the US has totally demolished much of Iran's key oil island before adding, we may hit it a few more times just for fun. If you understand Trump as living in hyperreality, just seeing war as a TV show, it makes sense that the objective of the war is always changing, that the operation was so badly thought out, and that there is an ever-changing timetable. It makes sense because the objectives, plans, and timetable don't matter if this is just a TV show. And the quote that really sums it up was in an interview with ABC's Jonathan Karl, saying, I hope you are impressed. How do you like the performance? I mean, Venezuela is obvious. This might be even better. How do you like the performance? It's similar to something he said in that interview about the Venezuela attack I played earlier.
Yeah, and don't forget, I've done some pretty good ones in other parts of the world. Okay, I've done some pretty good ones, but I've never seen anything like this. I was able to watch it in real time, and I watched every aspect of it.
Some good ones. I mean, it really is like he's a TV producer whose job it is to put on some good episodes for the audiences at home.
Flash, the Führer has just received a postcard from a friend vacationing abroad.
Now, obviously media has always been part of war, but the way I see it, this was media used to sell a war that was happening for a real reason. But Trump's wars feel different. Sure, there are definitely key people involved who have reasons. Marco Rubio seems to want to regime change his way through Latin America, and Netanyahu wants, I suspect, to create a failed state in Iran that will weaken it as an adversary. But these are not the motivations of the person at the top. He's running the TV Trump show, and if you bring him storylines that will gather attention and viewers, then he's happy to say yes to them.
All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think, huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
Once you notice this aspect of Trump, you see it everywhere. The way he retreated on ice once the TV pictures went bad. The way he focuses on ratings when he insults people. His appointment of TV pundits rather than actual serious people that could get things done. And it's clearly an obsession that is lifelong, pursuing tabloid coverage and celebrity, even once pretending to be his own PR person so he could impress a reporter.
He's somebody that has a lot of options, and frankly, he gets called by everybody. He gets called by everybody in the book in terms of women.
But if Trump was happy for this war to be a TV war or a meme war, disconnected in this hyper-real world, well, the reality is turning out differently.
Gas prices up, diesel prices up, jet fuel prices up. And in some quarters, you're beginning to hear whispers of concerns over the R word, recession.
U.S. allies are reacting with caution or just flat out refusing a request from Donald Trump to help secure oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz.
At least 13 American service members have now died during the war with Iran.
And the U.S. military accidentally hit the school. The sources say the mistake likely occurred because of outdated information about a nearby Iranian naval base.
Now, I need to say, I don't want America's war on Iran to fail. If the Iran war ends up in a roundabout way with the Iranian regime falling and a better outcome than before, then I will be grateful for that. But having said that, I do want Trump, the leader of the most powerful military in the world, to understand that reality is a thing. The ease of the Venezuela raid, to the point it, quote, did not take place, is what led us to this conflict. And I'm scared that success in this operation would lead to many more reckless wars and a lot more danger. But with all the problems with this Iran war, so many negative consequences for America as well as everyone else, perhaps this is less likely now. Trump went looking for a war that did not exist, but found one that did. If you found that interesting, then I do recommend this video. It's about Israel and how focusing just on military power can prevent you from actually achieving your political objectives. And it's got a whole Napoleon storyline, which was quite fun to put together. Also, I would love you to sign up to my free email list. I send out emails when I publish new videos, but also interesting links from around the internet, interesting videos, as well as lots of other goodies. So yeah, check that out by clicking the button wherever you can see it.